So anyway, we get to the police station. She goes her way, I go mine. Like I said, I ended up in juvenile, and then I ended up back going to this group home called Camp Avery. It's like a DY, Division of Youth Services facility. Now, the way that that facility was, you it wasn't locked down, so you could actually run away. And for some reason, I did not run away, right? I just decided to stay there because there was girls in there. As a matter of fact, it was a couple girls that I was in juvenile with. They were in there. They had actually left, and I thought they went home, but I didn't know that they ended up going into the DYS facility. So, um, anyway, I go, um, just trying to navigate the program. And I remember I was there for probably like a week or something like that. And within the week that I was there was like this older man. He was a teacher. I guess he was a English teacher. He was some sort of teacher. And he like took this particular interest in me. I'm thinking that he's just got interest in me because, he's just being nice or something. I wasn't really quite sure like what the deal was. So he used to always be like, "Oh, come to my office and we can talk and I'll help you with your homework and different things like that." And so I went into his office one day, and when I went in there, he started trying to touch on my leg and touch on me, and I felt like really uncomfortable, like what's going on. And so it happened a couple more times where he would be like, rubbing my leg or rubbing my arm. And so one particular time he like tried to make an advance at me, and I told him that that's not going to be okay. And at first I wasn't going to say anything cuz I'm like, let me just leave it alone, something might happen, he might try to do something to me cuz like I said, things had happened to me in the past and there was consequences for telling if somebody's trying to touch you. So I didn't really know, but something just told me to tell, right? So I ended up telling one of the facilitators at the facility about what happened. Little did I know, he had been doing this and molesting girls at the facility for I don't know how long. So, anyway, they fired him. And when they fired him, a lot of girls came forward and was crying. And I was just like, wow, I saved some people. I mean, I really didn't save them, but me speaking up on it really made an impact. It made a difference. So from that point on, I was just like this advocate for anybody that was getting molested, and I'm speaking on it now. Like if somebody's gonna try to touch me, I'm gonna talk about it now. Like I'm gonna call it out. So anyway, I ended up staying in the facility. I thought about running away, but I never did. And then I remember it was a lot of things that we used to do at the facility. We used to have to go to Quiver River and do like hiking, and we did canoeing, and we rappelled off cliffs. Like it was a crazy experience, and they were teaching us how to work together. Like it was one of those things where the group was in control. Like the girls could see what you were doing all the time, so you couldn't lie to them. So if you fought or anything happened, we would have to like immediately sit in a group, start talking about the situation until we can get it together, right? So you had to go up different levels in order to leave this facility or whatever the case was. So I was working the program. I started really taking it serious because I don't know, it was something about it, the different type of groups we would have and just different things. I don't know, it was pretty structured, and I was getting a lot out of it even though I was young. And so my mom, she started coming to see me. Her and my grandmother, they took me to get clothes. I was excited about that, but I was still a little upset with her because, of course, she was still with my stepfather. But I didn't know what was going on at the time, like with them. But I guess she figured, like, let me get my daughter. Let me try to love my daughter and be there for her. So I worked the program, and one day they took us to Chillicothe State Prison. And they used to, when we went there, they were like, we were like touring the facility and stuff like that. And when we first got there, they put this stamp on our hand. We couldn't even see the stamp. It was like clear or something. I think they were tricking us, making us think it was something there, but it wasn't. And they were like, if you let this rub off your hand, then you're not going to be able to leave from here. And I remember I was scared half to death because I didn't want nobody to touch my hand. You know what I mean? I didn't want anybody to touch me because I'm like, if this rubs off and I have to stay here, like, no. And then there was a lady that was there, and she basically had a guy had got her neck cut. She had a Canadian necktie or whatever you want to call it. And she was talking to me and she was like, you don't want to end up here. And that scared the mess out of me. This was before scared straight even was even existing. It scared me. So I was like, no, I don't want to go to jail. You know what I mean? And so I ended up learning a lesson from that. And then I started taking it serious because I'm like, I don't want to go to jail. You know what I mean? Because they were like, if you don't work this program and this doesn't work out, by the time you're 17, you're going to go to jail. We're going to take you to jail. So I'm like, I'm working this program. Like, forget that. I'm not about to go to jail. Like that's not the place for me. So I ended up working the program, and I also ended up helping other girls. Like, it was this other young lady. There was one of the facilitators. Her name was Dawn Carniglia. I will never forget her. She was like my person that, I guess, my social worker, or my person that I talked to. And she had me doing stuff like exercise classes and different things like that. Like, she really took care of me and was really trying to mentor me and help me to see things differently. She would take me to her house, and I think she was about to be married at the time, but she just was the sweetest person ever. And anyway, I started working with her, and then it was another girl that was with her too, and I started helping her, like telling her about the program and everything that I was learning, and I ended up getting group release. And so the group release was good because it was allowing me to go home. So at that time, I didn't know where I was going to go, what I was going to do, what relatives I can go stay with or whatever. But I was just like working this program. I was just like, hopefully everything works out the way that it needs to. I was trying not to worry so much about it. And then eventually I got out, like probably within 6 months or something like that of me being there. So I get out. I move with one of my sisters. I started going to high school there. At this time, like I said, still, because of the things that I've been through and because I was on my own so long, I felt like I was grown, like literally, and plus I was really wise for my age. So I don't know. It was a different situation when I got with her, and there was still there was still addictions going on. There was still, and like I said, I haven't been around my family in years. So my sister who I went and stayed with, my niece that I originally came and lived with us, that was her mom. So I would go over there and stay with them and go to school from there. And then I started hanging out with some different girls. And again, by this time, I'm different now because I'm like, I'm not going to be stealing from my friends. I'm not going to be, starting stuff, spreading rumors. I learned a lot about myself and just being around other people, especially girls, when I ended up in DYS facility. So I lived with my sister. A lot of things happened, and I ended up moving from her. And then I moved in with my sister, and we lived in Wellston. I was probably 15, 16 at the time. So we moved to Wellston, and I ended up going to VAP. And at the time, my sister was with her husband, who I had already previously met before I went away, but I didn't really know him. I just knew he was her daughter's father. So I lived with her, and he was really dysfunctional. Like, he was abusive. He was so many things, and it really took a toll on my sister. So I started seeing a lot of abuse. A lot of my sisters were in abusive relationships at the time, which was confusing to me because I didn't really understand the dynamics of that. Like, I experienced my own abuse, but I never experienced anybody else's abuse. So anyway, I lived with her in Wellston. We lived over this store on Hodemont, and there was a girl that lived across the street. I consider her like my little sister. Like she used to do hair, and I used to do her hair. We used to do each other's hair. I think she was like 13 or 14 at the time. So she was like my little sister. I never had a little sister. So I was really excited about being able to, just be there for somebody else like nobody was there for me. You know what I mean? Um, so during that time, she had a brother, and her brother was in a gang. He went to Beaumont. He was a blood, and he would be getting into it with these guys in the Hodemont tracks all the time. They would be fighting. The guys would come fight them. They would meet down in the Hodemont tracks and they would fight. So this particular time, I wasn't even old enough to work at the time. I was 15, and I wasn't even old enough to work, but I got a job up at KFC, right there off of Martin Luther King and Skinker, and I was working there. And I would bring her food and different things like that, and bring her food home to my sister. And then one day, I guess the fight went too far. I don't know, because they were beating the guys up. And I guess the guys were like, no, we're going to get you. So they ended up coming to her house and threatening and wanting to, like, where's the guy? And he was hiding in the basement. And the mom was talking to him, and they were like, we're going to come back, and we will be back. So she called the police. They called the police. So then the next day when I got off work, I went to school, and then I got off work, and Christina, oh, that was her name, Christina, she was crying. She was sitting on the stoops crying. And I'm like, what's wrong with you, babe? She's like, I'm scared because these guys came over, and they threatened my brother, and I'm really scared because I think something's going to happen. She was so scared. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to get off work. So I told her, because at this particular time, I think I had moved. Yeah, I had moved on the south side with my sister over off of Jefferson. My oldest sister, I would move with her. And so I wasn't over at my other sister's house because she had actually left. Like she left and moved out, and I didn't even know she was moving out. And so here I am alone again, not knowing what's going on again, having to take care of myself and fend for myself. Because her and her husband ended up, I guess, getting back together, and that kind of confused me. That kind of hurt me, but now I get it. Now I understand, and we've talked about it. But anyway, she said she was going to come with me to my sister's house the next day. So the guys came back again. This time when they came back, they were like, if he doesn't come and we can't find him, something's going to happen. So the mom called the police again, and the police was sitting there for a minute, but then they never did like do anything. They kind of just like monitored the house for a moment and then stopped coming over and checking to see what was going on. And so that particular night I was working, and I told her, I said, I'm going to come get you when I get off. And she was like, okay. And I got off work. Well, I was going to get off work, but that particular night there was going to be an inspection or something the next day. And so we had to clean the grease traps. So by the time we got done, it was only one more bus heading towards my sister's house, and it was late. So I didn't have time to really like go get my friend like before getting on the bus because of that situation. And they didn't have a phone, so I couldn't call her. So I ended up hopping on the bus when I got done, and I went over to my sister's house, and that was the end of it. So the next morning I woke up, and I looked at the news, and I saw my friend's picture on the news, and her mom and her uncle. And I'm like, what is going on? So I called my sister like, why is Christina on the news? And she was like, the guys came back. And when they came back, they kicked the door in and shot my friend, her mom, and her uncle execution style. And I was like, wow, because I would have been there. Like, had I not had to clean that grease trap, I would have been dead with them. It's always been things like that where I've been protected, I feel. I don't know, it's weird, but it's been several situations that I'll continue to talk about later on that where that could have been the case. But anyway, I went to her funeral. It was really sad. I remember that when I walked in, her brother, because I guess he ended up getting locked up because my older brother had took him to his cousin's house over on the south side somewhere to protect him, but I guess the mom felt like they weren't going to come back and do anything to them. They were just looking for her son, but I guess because they couldn't find him, they were gonna get somebody. So they killed my friend and her mom and uncle. Went to the funeral. It was really sad. It was like 3 people in caskets at the funeral, and I remember I was devastated. Like that was the first really tragic thing outside of my father being murdered to happen to me. So, anyways, I ended up moving over to the south side with my sister, and then I was probably about 16. So, by then, it was a lot of guys that started liking me. I was still not being honest about my age, but I did take advantage of the fact that they were giving me stuff and doing things for me. And again, that was my way of surviving. Like it was like I had to learn how to survive on my own again because my sister, and then even when I was living with my other sister, like I still had to fend for myself. And it was this guy, and he would give me money, and my sister would take it and take advantage of me. He would buy me clothes, and he was selling dope at the time, and my sister would steal my clothes and steal my money and different things like that. So I started not really trusting certain people because I'm trying to change and not do things different. However, it was around me everywhere I went. Like I'm starting to see how shady people was, and I was like, I don't want to be shady like that, but it's like that's what I was surrounded by. And so I ended up moving away from my sister's house and moved in with my other sister. And everything was fine over there. And then I just kind of started being in the streets. I just, my sister would let me drive her car, and I would go down to the city. And she lived in Crystal City. And I would drive down to the city and be hanging out and stuff like that. And at that time, my twin brother was in a group home. And I would go visit him, and we would hang out. And I remember my sister, one day she was rolling up something, and she passed it to me, and I didn't realize what it was. And it was a joint, but it had other drugs in it. And she passed it to me, and I didn't take it, but my twin brother took it, and he was always wanting to fit in, like the same way I used to. But I think I started learning things differently and understanding things differently. And then after that, he got hooked on drugs really bad, on and off. So then it was like really dysfunctional because I started being around a lot of my brothers and sisters, and they used to be fighting, arguing. It used to be a lot of arguing. I remember my sister, one of my older sisters, she had a husband, and he was abusing her, and she used to be trying to get away from him, and he pulled a gun out on her in front of me, and I was afraid because I thought I was gonna die too. Thankfully, my brother had took the bullets out of the gun because it was his gun. After that, I moved out of my sister's house, and I ended up moving with my cousin, and still working and different things like that. But I just kind of felt still like I was being labeled, and because of what I was doing before, like I wasn't still doing those things. But the bottom line is that I learned early how to hang out with guys without being physical with them and still getting what I wanted from them. And so people would think, I'm sleeping with these guys, and I was not sleeping with them. Like, I'm not going to say I didn't have a boyfriend or anything like that, but, it wasn't what, you know, people were thinking and feeling. So again, I started getting this label on me, you know what I mean? Because because like I said, it was already a label on me way before I even got away from my family. And then I feel like when I came back, it was the same thing. But anyway, my cousin was really sweet. She had my cousins, and they were all, a little bit younger than me. But we used to hang out all the time, and I got real close to them. We're still close to this day. I love them. They're awesome. And I really appreciate my cousin, because even the people that it was a lot of dysfunctional things going on, and I was still dysfunctional, there were people that still try to help me. But if they felt like maybe I was doing too much, then it was like I would get counted out real easy and real fast. So again, I started having insecurity issues and feelings of abandonment. Like I said, my sister left me. Like, it was always somebody moving, and me always having to find the next place to go. Like, where am I going to go next? And I just went from home to home, to place to place. Then I ended up meeting this guy, and he ended up getting his own place, and I would be over his house all the time. And then other girls that I ended up being friends with, they weren't good friends. So it went from me not being a good friend to finding people that weren't good friends to me. Like, I guess it was like what comes around goes around or something. So I started, just feeling like I couldn't trust anybody. I started getting real paranoid about people and things and family and situations and stuff like that. So that went on. I ended up eventually going into like this transitional living program after a while, and left from there. I would be trying to go visit my mom because I felt like we should have a closer relationship, but my stepfather didn't really want me there. Especially considering I was taking his pennies and taking little things. Like, he didn't want me there, but that's not where I was at it anymore. Like, I just wanted to be around my mom, and I would really be really angry that I couldn't be around my mom, and she really didn't want me to be there. I mean, she wanted me to be there, but my stepfather really was like, no, you know what I mean, by that time, because I guess I had lied on him and blamed him from the whelps on my arm. So I get it. I understand. But that used to bother me. Then come to find out, my stepfather had 3 kids on my mom. They were married for like 30 something years. And out of the 30 something years, like I said, he kept cheating on her. And then he had a baby on her. Then he had a baby on her. Then he had a baby on her. So by the time I'm coming back around again at this time, here's these kids, and I'm like, what's going on? So that happened. So I always told myself, oh, I'm not going to be that girl to let a man cheat on me. And, I was like determined. Like, and then I also didn't want to have my own kids because I saw, well, first of all, I didn't want my own kids because I wasn't stable. And then I didn't want my own kids because I saw my sisters have kids, and I saw how their relationships ended, where they thought they were going to be with this person, and then it wasn't the way that it was. So it was so many reasons to make me not want to have children. So I did everything I could to prevent that from happening. So anyway, my mother ended up leaving my stepfather eventually, probably like in 96 or something like that. I had started meeting guys, and I started not trusting guys because they were not trustworthy. You know what I mean? I looked at my stepfather, how he cheated. So I was never really emotionally available. Like, even when I met guys that I really liked, I wasn't emotionally available. Like, I wouldn't say that I was playing games, but I would just do things that didn't make any sense. You know what I mean? Kind of self-sabotaging type of behaviors. So I ended up deciding that I was going to, try to figure myself out, try to figure out my life and stuff like that. So I ended up in the transitional living program. I got out of there, started working. Again, I still wasn't stable because I still wasn't old enough to be stable. You know what I mean? Like, nobody taught me about credit. Nobody taught me about anything. Everything that I learned, I had to learn on my own. And then the people that were teaching me things, it was like, oh, take your looks, use your looks, get what you want. And that's not what I was trying to do. You know what I mean? I never wanted to use anybody, or, you know, especially after I started learning about myself and seeing how things were and how shady people were and how people acted. I did not want to be that person. You know what I mean? Like, little by little, I started wanting to change, and I saw things that for what they were, and I didn't want a lot of times any parts of it, but I still was in the streets. My brother that was a little bit older than me, you know, he was like going through a lot of things at the time. Little did he know he was suffering from mental illness. I had other brothers that was alcoholics and drug addicts, and sisters and brothers and cousins and uncles and aunts, and everybody was doing something. Everything was dysfunctional. So I kind of felt like I needed to get away from that situation, but it was kind of hard to. And I kind of took a position of eventually just becoming codependent. And there was a lot of codependency in my family. And so I didn't really know like how to navigate that, how to get through that, because to a certain extent I needed them on top of still having to take care of myself. So I ended up kind of being on my own. Me and my niece, we eventually was on our own together, and we would be staying here and staying there, and it was always like moving from place to place, so there was never really any stability. So I feel like I started like feeling like I needed to be stable, and the only way that I felt like I was going to be stable is if I was in a relationship. So I started end up being in relationships, and the relationships were toxic. I was in a relationship with this guy who ended up being abusive. He was lying on me. He was accusing me of things, but he was the one that was cheating. He would be gone for days and then he would come back. He was trying to get me pregnant. I actually wanted to kill him. I actually was going to kill him, you know, and I decided that that was enough. Like, once I'm starting to feel like I need to hurt someone because they're going to hurt me, then it was like, yeah, it was time to go. So I would always be the type of person that if I felt somebody cheating, or if I felt like you were a liar or whatever it was, I was gone. Like, there was no, and I'm gone and I'm not coming back. But then I started getting to the point where it was like I would be dysfunctional and I would go back. Like, they would love bomb me, or I'd see them again, and then they would be like, oh, I'm sorry for putting my hands on you, or sorry for this and that, and then I would go back with them. But at the same time, they were still abusive and they were in the streets. And honestly, I didn't want anybody in the streets. I just wanted somebody that was stable, and I just wanted to be loved. I just wanted to be taken care of. And so anyway, I ended up eventually, probably in my late 20s. I mean, early teens. I mean, late teens, I guess, probably like 19 or something like that. I met this guy, and I actually went to school with him. And I was living with him, and then he was cheating on me. Uh, his I ended up getting fed up with the cheating, and then I started going back to my old ways again. Oh, you know, like that get back type of mentality. And I remember one time, I did something that I wasn't supposed to do. I took something from his mom, and I knew about it. Somebody else was with me, and I knew something about it, and me and him stopped talking. And then after that, I was like, wow, this is just too much. Like, what are you doing? You're going back to these toxic ways and different things like that. So I ended up not talking to him anymore. And then I moved. I moved to Minnesota. I got to Minnesota, started working, life was better for me in Minnesota. It was like nicer people. I don't know. It was just a different environment. And I will always be drawn to younger people that was just a little bit younger than me, that was maybe going through something, and they were like my little sisters. So they would always be at my house hanging out and different things like that. So I love them. They're awesome. But again, I still was unstable. I still, and I was staying with my twin brother at the time, and he had just got out of jail. So he was trying to get his life together. the good thing about Minnesota is if you get out of jail, they're going to help you find a place. They're going to help you find a job. It's different than St. Louis and other places. So he was on his feet, getting his feet together, different things like that. So time passed, and worked at different jobs and did different things. And then eventually I wanted love. I was like, I want to be with someone. I want to be stable. And because of me wanting to be stable and wanted to be with somebody and wanted to be loved, it landed me in very toxic relationships. So I met this guy in my early 20s. And it was my first husband. I got married. We were only married for a couple months. But I married him, and I did not want to marry him. Like, I just wanted to be his friend. But at the time, I was unstable. I didn't have a stable place to live. He would let me be at his grandmother's house with him, and I would be at his grandmother's house with him. And I told him I didn't really want to be his friend, and his aunt and different people used to be trying to pressure me. They used to, I don't even know what the deal was, but I don't know what was going on at the time with him and his family, but it was kind of dysfunctional. And I knew I didn't really want to be in the middle of that. But at the same time, I felt like I had no choice. So I kind of just was like, you know what? Do I really want to marry him? You know what I mean? Because he asked me to marry him, and then I ended up leaving. And then he ended up following me to Minnesota. And I remember my sister calling me on the phone, and she was like, telling me he was there. And I'm like, why is he at your house? And she was like, oh, he said he wanted to come and get a job and take care of you, blah, blah, blah. And I was really upset because I was trying to get away from that situation because I saw that it was like codependent. And anyway, I felt bad. And my sister, she came back and she was like, well, he can't stay here anymore. Can he come down there with you? So it was like forced for him to come down there with me. So he came down. We ended up starting to try to hang out, and you know what I'm saying? And at the time, I was like really trying to focus on my spirituality because I realized that a lot of things that I had done, I didn't like that. And I was realizing that I was learning a lot of things that were not okay. So I had to get back to my spirituality. As I was doing that, I was never the type of person that just wanted to sleep around. I wanted to be in a relationship. So if I was in a relationship, I'm with you. There was no trying to be with several people at the same time. I would have friends that I would hang out with, but it wasn't like physical or anything like that. So he asked me to marry him. I married him. Made a big mistake. So then I left that alone. We still was trying to figure it out, but he was very he was not a good person when it came to being a husband. He was young. I was young. So he couldn't really take care of me. I started seeing a lot of things, hearing a lot of things about him being on drugs and just different things like that, different things that he was doing, some things that I heard. And then he was basically took my car, wouldn't give me my car back, and just different things like that. And when I found out he was on drugs and he wasn't taking care of me, and I was like the one doing everything. Because at first he was helping me out, and then when we got married, I'm like, okay, he's gonna provide. We're gonna do things together, and I ended up having to do everything. So I ended up telling my friend, like, just make him leave because he wouldn't even pay the money that he was supposed to pay for rent. She only charged us like $25, and while we was living there, $25 a week, and he wouldn't pay it. So I told her to put him out. So she ended up putting him out, and then that was the end of it. So then we filed for divorce and was, I was pretty much done with the situation. So anyway, time passed, and I ended up moving around and just trying to do me, you know what I mean? And he was telling his grandma and different people stuff about me that wasn't true. Just trying to make me look bad because I didn't want to be with him anymore. I really just wanted to just be on my own and by myself. And and just be able to, focus on what it was that I needed to do. So anyway, that happened. That ended. I had met this guy from Detroit, and he ended up getting killed. That was devastating because I really liked him a lot. And he really showed me what love was when nobody else did. He was patient with me. He was kind. He was protecting. And I knew he really loved me. And that's who I wanted to really be with. And then when he got killed, that was devastating. So anyway, I ended up going back to St. Louis, lived there. I was still dealing with my ex here and there. Still being dysfunctional. But before that, I had met, after that, I had met someone, and me and him was friends. And then I was in Minnesota, and when I came back from Minnesota, because I came back. And then when I came back, my brother-in-law had passed away. He had cancer, and he ended up dying. So I came back, and then I went back to a couple years had passed since the one guy got killed, and then a year or something passed, 2 years, I think. And then I came back to St. Louis, and when I came back to St. Louis, I got back with this guy that I was friends with, that I really liked. But at the time when I had met him, he was going through some stuff. You know what I mean? He had a girlfriend, and it was a lot of games and things like that. So I wasn't really trying to get involved in that. But I did still want to be with someone. I still wanted to be married. But I was just trying to focus on getting myself together at the time. So anyway, I went to his grandma's house and to see him. And then after that, we were together. It was long distance. And then he moved me from from Minnesota to St. Louis. And then when I got to St. Louis, he asked me to marry him. I was excited because I really liked him, and he became my husband. So fast forward over the years. I ended up probably a couple weeks into our marriage. I was finding phone numbers, things was happening. I was confused because I was thinking he was a different person than he was. I wasn't expecting certain things, and it was certain times I was like going to leave, and I didn't. And I don't know what it was different about this relationship, but it was like I really cared about him. I cared about the situation. It was like more of a trauma bond because, his dad had passed away. Different things was going on, and I just really wanted to be stable. I really wanted to be with someone. I didn't want to date around. I just wanted to be with one person. So I ended up saying yes, and we got married in 2001. And when we got married, like I said, I was finding phone numbers, different things was happening. But he knew how to manipulate me, and I started turning into somebody that I wasn't. I started just being angry and frustrated because it was like, I know I'm not crazy. I know what I'm talking about. But he had a way of manipulation, if you really want to know. But he wasn't a bad person. He was a good provider, all those things. But the infidelity part was a problem. So over the years, it would be certain things that I would find out. I would find cell phones. I would find out that he's messing with this person and messing with that person. Every time I was about to leave him, something would happen. His granny died. My mom died. Different things started happening. It kept us together. So those bonds were like every single time something would happen, it would bring us closer. And I'm thinking that things are going to be better. So around 2006, I ended up working for Enterprise, and it was real bad in the house because he would be gone all night. He would be playing the game. He would be doing this. He would be doing that. I felt so alone. I'm not thinking he's doing anything, but apparently he was. I'm gonna stop the video here, and then we're gonna go into then and now, and why I'm doing this, and how I want to be helpful to other women to be able to be empowered to get out of relationships and toxic cycles, and the understanding of why I had to heal my inner child in order to be able to move forward to first of all love myself, and then also find the love that I deserve. So I will be back in the next video. Thanks for watching.